Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The storm raged outside, its fury palpable through the apartment windows. Pattering raindrops coalesced into a hypnotic rhythm that accompanied the television's chorus of cheers and dramatic beats. Amidst this symphony, a solitary figure, hunched in concentration, occupied the room. Hands clutching a mug, Leighton Martin's brow furrowed in determination as he poised his pen over an application form. Steam rose from the coffee in Leighton's grip, a contrast to the coolness now settling into his hesitating fingers. His roommate's voice punctured the momentary quiet. "You really gonna send that?" he asked, lingering in the kitchen doorway. Leighton's eyes didn't leave the form. But this week... The dramatic pause stretched as the camera panned across the contestants' faces. "This week, we're throwing our biggest twist yet!" Leighton shifted his weight from one foot to the other. The first two challenges had been physical, an obstacle course and a desert survival test, both of which he'd managed to scrape through with his athletic background. Standing in his faded blue jeans and gray t-shirt, he felt confident that whatever came next, he could handle it. "For the next 7 days, our contestants will have to live as the opposite gender." The collective gasp from the group was audible. Leighton felt his stomach drop to somewhere around his ankles. "Complete immersion! Voice, clothing, mannerisms, everything! At the end of the week, our judges will evaluate your commitment, and the winner gets immunity from elimination plus a special $10,000 bonus." The camera caught Leighton's expression of horror perfectly. The producers would later use it in all the promotional material. 6 hours later, Leighton sat in a makeup chair, staring at his reflection in disbelief as a stylist with purple hair and nimble fingers worked on his face. "I can't believe I'm doing this," he muttered, wincing as the stylist plucked at his eyebrows. "Honey, for 10 grand in immunity, you can believe it," she replied, tilting his chin upward. "Now stop talking before I mess up your foundation." 2 other stylists circled him, one measuring his shoulders, while another examined his feet with a critical eye. "Size 11? We'll need to special order the heels." "Heels?" Leighton squeaked, earning a stern look from the makeup artist. "Of course, heels. What did you think you'd be wearing, sneakers?" She stepped back to examine her work. "Not bad. Your bone structure is actually working in our favor. Okay, time for the wig fitting." "Wait, wig?" Leighton's hand instinctively went to his short brown hair. "Can't I just, I don't know, use my own hair?" The stylists exchanged amused glances. "Your own hair is too short for the look we're going for," explained one. "Don't worry, we've selected a brown wig that matches your natural color. It'll look authentic, and when this is all over, you can go back to your regular style." 4 hours later, Leighton could no longer recognize himself in the mirror. Soft brown locks cascaded past his shoulders, framing a face that had been contoured, highlighted, and enhanced with makeup. His eyes, accentuated with mascara and eyeliner, looked larger and more expressive. His lips, painted a soft pink, appeared fuller. "Time for wardrobe," announced the lead stylist, guiding him to another room. The clothing rack held an assortment of feminine outfits. After trying several options, they settled on a floral pink sundress that flared slightly at the hips, creating the illusion of a feminine figure. "The pink works well with your skin tone," noted the wardrobe stylist, adjusting the straps. "And these?" She held up a pair of black stiletto heels. "These will complete the transformation." Leighton stared at the shoes in horror. "I can't walk in those." "You'll learn," she replied, her tone leaving no room for argument. "By the way, we need to discuss your name." "My name?" "For the next week, you can't be Leighton. The producers want something feminine that starts with the same letter as your given name." She tapped a finger against her clipboard. "How about Leona or Lila?" Leighton shook his head. "If I'm going to do this, I might as well go all in. What about—" He paused, remembering his grandmother who had always believed in him. "Cecilia. My grandmother's name was Cecilia." The stylist smiled. "Cecilia it is. Now let's practice walking in those heels." The first steps were wobbly, uncertain. By the time he'd crossed the room 3 times, Leighton, now Cecilia, had developed blisters in places he hadn't known could blister. But by the 10th crossing, she was walking with a semblance of confidence. "Remember to take smaller steps," instructed the stylist. "And keep your chest out, shoulders back. You're not just wearing feminine clothes, you're embodying a woman." When Cecilia stepped onto the set for the official reveal, the other contestants' reactions ranged from stunned silence to poorly suppressed laughter. The men, now dressed as women, looked varying degrees of uncomfortable. The women, transformed into men, seemed to be handling their changes with more adaptability. "Contestants, meet your new selves for the next week." The host gestured grandly. "Remember, the challenge isn't just about looking the part, it's living it. You'll be evaluated on consistency, commitment, and authenticity. Your shared living quarters have been divided by your new genders. Ladies, to the left. Gentlemen, to the right." Cecilia hesitated, then followed the other transformed men toward the left living area. Walking in the heels was still a challenge, but she managed to cross the studio without tripping. A small victory she quietly celebrated. The women's quarters were decorated in soft colors with comfortable furnishings. A long vanity with mirrors and makeup stations lined one wall. Cecilia chose a bed near the window, setting down the small bag of permitted personal items. "This is insane," muttered another contestant, a former football player named Richard, who now wore a red dress and a blonde wig. "I'm quitting. I don't need the money this badly." "You can't quit," reminded Cecilia, surprised at how easily she'd slipped into using a softer, higher voice. "The contract, remember? Unless you have a medical emergency, quitting means paying back all the expenses they've already covered." Richard glared at his reflection in the nearest mirror. "Then I'll just do the bare minimum. No way am I going all out like you seem to be doing." Cecilia shrugged, causing the strap of her pink sundress to slip slightly. She adjusted it unconsciously. "It's a game, and I'm playing to win. Maybe try thinking of it that way." The first night was uncomfortable. Sleeping in the wig was impossible, so Cecilia carefully removed it, following the instructions she'd been given to preserve its styling. The makeup stayed on, though. Removing and reapplying it would be part of the morning routine the contestants would learn. Dawn brought the first real challenge, getting ready without the professional stylists. Each contestant had been given a kit with makeup, hair products, and basic instructions. Cecilia stared at the array of bottles and brushes with trepidation. "Need some help?" A voice came from behind her. It was Monica, now going by Mark, who had been a makeup artist before entering the competition. "I can show you the basics." "That would be amazing," Cecilia admitted, relief evident in her voice. Under Monica/Mark's guidance, Cecilia learned to apply foundation, contour her face, and emphasize her eyes. The process was methodical, almost meditative. By the time she finished, she felt a strange sense of accomplishment. "You know, you're actually pretty good at this." Monica observed. You have steady hands. Cecilia smiled, examining her reflection. Thanks. I used to paint miniatures for tabletop games. I guess the skills are transferable. After breakfast, eaten carefully to avoid smudging lipstick, the day's activity was announced, a public outing. The contestants would visit a local mall, where they would need to interact with store employees, try on clothes appropriate for their new gender, and maintain their personas throughout. This is where we separate the committed from the casual, the host explained. Hidden cameras will track your interactions. Remember, authenticity counts. As they boarded the bus to the mall, Cecilia felt her anxiety rising. It was one thing to play a role on set, but interacting with the public was an entirely different challenge. She sat next to Denise, now Daniel, who seemed remarkably at ease in her new masculine attire. Nervous? Daniel asked, noticing Cecilia fidgeting with the hem of her dress. Terrified, Cecilia admitted. What if people laugh? Or worse? Daniel's expression softened. Look, I've spent my life being underestimated because I'm a woman in tech. Now I'm getting a taste of male privilege, and I'm running with it. Maybe this is a chance for you to experience something new too. Instead of fearing judgment, embrace the opportunity. The mall loomed ahead, its glass entrance reflecting the morning sun. Cecilia took a deep breath, adjusted her brown wig, smoothed her pink sundress, and stepped off the bus, balancing carefully on her black stilettos. The first hour was nerve-wracking. Every glance felt like scrutiny, every smile potentially mockery. Cecilia moved stiffly through the stores, robotically examining clothing racks without really seeing them. Then, during a particularly awkward moment in a women's boutique, a young salesperson approached her. That color would look amazing with your complexion, she said, holding up a deep emerald blouse. Would you like to try it on? There was no recognition in her eyes, no hint that she saw anything unusual. She was simply doing her job, helping a customer. Something in Cecilia relaxed. Yes, I think I would, she replied, accepting the garment. In the fitting room, she carefully removed her pink sundress and slipped the emerald blouse over her head. It fit well, the color rich against her skin. Looking in the mirror, she saw not Leighton pretending to be Cecilia, but simply Cecilia, shopping for clothes. What do you think? The saleswoman asked when Cecilia emerged. I love it, Cecilia said truthfully. I'll take it. The rest of the mall excursion flowed more naturally after that. Cecilia visited a makeup counter where she allowed the consultant to try new products on her, asking questions and absorbing techniques with genuine interest. She had lunch at a cafe, navigating the challenges of eating daintily while maintaining conversation. By the time they returned to the studio, Cecilia felt different, more confident, less self-conscious. The evening brought a new challenge, a formal dinner where the contestants would be observed by the judges. Cecilia wore her new emerald blouse paired with a black pencil skirt and the same challenging stilettos. Her makeup, which she'd touched up herself, emphasized her eyes while maintaining a natural look. You're really getting into this, observed Richard, still uncomfortable in his red dress. It's almost like you're enjoying it. Cecilia considered this as she adjusted her brown wig. I'm not sure enjoying is the right word, but I'm trying to learn from it. Isn't that part of why we joined this show? For new experiences? Richard grunted, unconvinced. The dinner was held in an elegant room with a long table. Cecilia found herself seated between two judges, a renowned psychologist and a fashion designer. The conversation flowed surprisingly easily, with Cecilia maintaining her feminine voice and mannerisms without the strained effort of the previous day. "Tell me," the psychologist asked during dessert, "what has surprised you most about this experience so far?" Cecilia paused, considering the question. "How quickly it stopped feeling like a performance," she answered honestly. "I expected to be constantly aware of playing a role, but there are moments now where it just feels natural." The psychologist nodded, making a note on a small pad. "Interesting. And does that concern you?" "I'm not sure," Cecilia admitted. "I came here to win a game, not to have an identity crisis. But I can't deny that there's something liberating about stepping outside of the expectations I've lived with all my life." The fashion designer leaned in. "That emerald is a perfect choice for you, by the way. It brings out the warmth in your eyes." "Thank you," Cecilia replied with a genuine smile. "I'm discovering I have a better eye for these things than I realized." As the week progressed, the challenge intensified. Each day brought new scenarios: a yoga class, where Cecilia struggled but persevered; a cooking competition in which she discovered a talent for plating and presentation; a dance lesson that left her feet aching but her spirits high. By the 5th day, something remarkable had happened. Cecilia woke up looking forward to her morning makeup routine. She found herself experimenting with different techniques, blending colors, creating subtle effects that enhanced rather than masked her features. The other contestants began coming to her for help, impressed by her growing skill. "How did you get your eyeliner so perfect?" asked Brittany, now Brian, peering into the mirror beside Cecilia. "It's all in the wrist," Cecilia explained, demonstrating with a steady hand. "And patience. Lots of patience." The 6th day brought individual interviews with the judges. Cecilia sat across from them, now completely comfortable in a navy blue dress and her ever-present black stilettos, her brown hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. "You've been one of our most consistent performers," noted the fashion judge. "We've watched you evolve from clearly uncomfortable to remarkably authentic. Can you tell us what triggered that change?" Cecilia considered the question carefully. "I think it was the moment I stopped seeing this as a performance and started seeing it as an experience. I stopped trying to be a man, pretending to be a woman, and just allowed myself to be Cecilia, whoever she might be." "And who is Cecilia?" asked the psychologist. A small smile played at the corners of her lips. "She's creative. She's detail-oriented. She notices things, colors, textures, emotions that Leighton might have overlooked. She's more patient, more willing to listen. And she's not afraid to take up space in a different way." "Do you think you'll miss her when this is over?" The question hung in the air, weighted with implications. Cecilia's hands rested in her lap, manicured nails gleaming softly. "I'm starting to think that maybe she doesn't have to go anywhere." The final day arrived. The contestants gathered for the judgment, all having completed their week living as the opposite gender. Some had clearly counted the minutes until they could return to their familiar selves. Others, like Cecilia, had undergone more profound journeys. "Contestants," the host announced, "you've all completed one of our most challenging weeks yet. Before we reveal the winner of immunity and the cash bonus, you're free to return to your original personas if you wish." Several contestants immediately expressed relief. Richard practically tore off his wig, while others more discreetly began removing accessories or adjusting their posture. Cecilia remained unchanged, the emerald blouse and black skirt she'd chosen for the final day complementing her carefully applied makeup and styled brown hair. "Not rushing to change back, Leighton?" the host asked, noticing her stillness. "Actually," she replied, her voice soft but clear, "I think I'll stay as Cecilia for now." A murmur ran through the group. The host raised an eyebrow but continued with the proceedings. "Our judges have evaluated your performance based on consistency, commitment, and authenticity. The winner of immunity and the $10,000 bonus is..." A dramatic pause, the cameras panning across anxious faces. "Cecilia!" Applause filled the studio. Cecilia's hand flew to her mouth in surprise, genuine emotion breaking through her composed exterior. "Cecilia, the judges were particularly impressed by your journey, from reluctance to complete immersion. Your attention to detail, from makeup application to the subtleties of movement and speech, demonstrated not just commitment to the challenge, but a remarkable journey of self-discovery. Congratulations!" As the competition continued in the weeks that followed, Cecilia remained Cecilia. She navigated physical challenges in modified ways, working within her new limitations while discovering unexpected strengths. Her makeup skills continued to improve, becoming a valuable asset in challenges requiring creativity or precision. The other contestants adjusted to the change with varying degrees of acceptance. Some respected her choice, others questioned her motives, but all had to acknowledge her commitment. "Doesn't it bother you that people might think this is just a strategy to stay in the game?" Daniel asked, during a rare quiet moment between challenges. Cecilia considered this, brushing a strand of brown hair behind her ear. "At first, maybe, but I've stopped worrying about what others think this is. I know what it is for me. And what is it for you? Liberation," Cecilia answered simply. "I spent my whole life trying to fit into an idea of manhood that never quite felt right. As Cecilia, I don't have to pretend anymore. Ironically, it took pretending to be someone else to finally be authentic." As the finale approached, Cecilia found herself among the last 4 contestants. The production team had long since adapted to her continued presentation as female, providing appropriate clothing and accommodations without comment. The audience, initially confused, had become supportive, many viewers connecting with her journey of self-discovery. The night before the final challenge, Cecilia sat on the balcony of the luxury penthouse where the remaining contestants were staying, looking out at the city lights. Daniel joined her, 2 mugs of tea in hand. "Big day tomorrow," Daniel remarked, passing Cecilia a steaming mug. "Nervous?" "About the challenge? A little." Cecilia wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic. "About what comes after? A lot." "You're thinking about going home? Back to your regular life?" Cecilia nodded. "The show has been this protective bubble. Out there," she gestured toward the sprawling city. "Reality is waiting. Are you having second thoughts about staying as Cecilia?" "No," she replied without hesitation. "That part I'm sure about. It's everything else. My job, my family, my friends, how they'll react, whether they'll understand." Daniel leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. "You know, I've been thinking about what I'll take from this experience when I go back to being Denise. I won't keep the short hair or the boxy clothes, but I'm keeping the confidence, the way I learned to claim space without apology." He looked at Cecilia. "We all have parts of ourselves we discover in unusual circumstances. Yours just happens to be more visible." The final challenge was an elaborate obstacle course combined with mental puzzles, a test of both physical prowess and intellectual agility. Cecilia, in practical black leggings and a fitted purple athletic top, her brown hair pulled back in a ponytail, approached each element with determination. She wasn't the fastest or the strongest, but her methodical approach to the puzzles and her unexpected grace in the physical challenges kept her competitive. By the final obstacle, a towering wall with a rope, she was neck and neck with Martin, a firefighter who had been a frontrunner throughout the competition. Gathering her strength, Cecilia began climbing, her muscles straining with effort. Martin pulled ahead, reaching the top several seconds before her. As she crested the wall, their eyes met in mutual respect. He extended a hand, helping her over the top. Together, they faced the last puzzle, a complex lock mechanism that required both strength and finesse. Martin struggled with the delicate manipulations, while Cecilia's practiced hands, accustomed now to the precise movements of applying makeup, worked the mechanism with surprising skill. The lock clicked open just as Martin solved his portion. They raced for the finish line, crossing almost simultaneously. The host called for a photo finish review. As they waited for the results, breathing heavily, Martin turned to Cecilia. "Whatever happens, you earned this," he said. "Not just the finale, but your place here as yourself." The host returned, envelope in hand. "After reviewing the footage, I can now announce that the winner of Ultimate Challenge, with a margin of just 0.2 of a second, is..." The pause stretched, cameras capturing the tension on both finalists' faces. "Martin!" The studio erupted in cheers. Martin's face broke into a disbelieving grin as confetti rained down. Cecilia felt a moment of disappointment, quickly replaced by genuine happiness for her fellow competitor. She stepped forward, embracing him warmly. "Congratulations," she said sincerely. "You deserve it." The runner-up prize was nothing to scoff at, $25,000, but more valuable was the journey itself. As the cameras captured the final moments of the show, Cecilia stood tall in her athletic wear, her makeup subtle but skillfully applied, her brown hair framing a face that radiated contentment despite the competitive loss. The host approached her during the post-show interviews. "Cecilia, you've had perhaps the most remarkable journey of any contestant in the history of Ultimate Challenge, coming in second place but finding yourself. Would you say it was worth it?" She smiled, the expression reaching her eyes. "First place would have been nice, but this," she gestured to herself, "this is the real prize. I came looking for money and found something priceless instead." 2 months after the show's finale aired, Cecilia sat in a small cafe, reviewing applications. Her makeup artistry, showcased on the program, had led to numerous offers. She'd chosen to start her own business, combining her technical background with her newly discovered talents. A notification pinged on her phone, a message from the show's producers. The next season was casting, and they wanted her to appear as a guest mentor for a special episode. The irony wasn't lost on her. The challenge that had been designed as a humorous obstacle had become a transformational journey, not just for her, but for many viewers who had connected with her story. She typed a quick acceptance, then returned to her work. Outside, the city moved in its endless rhythm, indifferent to individual transformations. But within Cecilia, the change had settled into certainty. What had begun as a week-long challenge had revealed the woman she had always been beneath the surface. Creative, perceptive, authentic. The ultimate challenge, it turned out, hadn't been about winning a game at all. It had been about finding the courage to be herself when the cameras stopped rolling. And in that challenge, Cecilia had already claimed the greatest victory of all. Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!